Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're all here this week. Today is August 20th, and we're doing government and security stories to start your week.
Much to the chagrin of the cancel brigade, I guess. But we are here, and I followed you guys' example. Short week. So
Well, yeah, we're testing it because it seems like we had a slightly higher viewership when we had less stories.
Well, people like when we chat about things because it's like we get colorful.
Yeah.
People like when I'm not here.
No.
No, don't say that.
Oh, they're out there. They're vocal too. But we have some great news. I always hesitate when we see these kinds of newses because there's always another layer, right?
Yeah.
And so for a little while, let's be happy.
It's okay, I got to get my glasses on anyway. See, I was setting up for the shot and everybody. Federal Appeals Court finds geofence warrants are categorically unconstitutional.
Compelling.
Well, patently,
You just get swept up.
it's categorically unconstitutional. We said that literally the first time this showed up, and it took until now for the Federal Appeals Court to agree.
This is a case from 2018.
Something is
reference.
broken.
But it's not the case that we usually reference here. The case we usually reference here was some sort of arson, right?
Yeah.
This was not that. There was a new one. After the arson case, when everybody was like, hey, you guys can't do this, they did it again because someone robbed a postal worker or someone at a post office.
Postal worker, I think.
And so they took the dragnet of anybody in the area of a post office. Now, do you think you might ever need to go to the post office?
I mean, I try to avoid it, but sometimes I do have to go to the post office.
Some people did, and they got caught up in it. And finally, a judge who sees reason.
Now, you could question the people in the post office. That's fine.
I'm sure they'd be happy to help with one of their own being robbed.
Yeah, but there's something. It turns into an automation, as we have seen with so many other things. Like, look at the technology. Remember wiretaps? In order for somebody to wiretap your phone in the 70s, there would have to be local involvement. There would be a paper trail. The problem is that the technology enables people to do these kinds of things surreptitiously. Nobody knows, so nobody can really object. It's also things that happen with your email. Think about like LavaBit. Remember LavaBit? We covered the story in LavaBit where it's like we need to be able to search somebody's email with that, and they had to shut down because there wasn't a way to do that with the way that their service was engineered.
But we did know, and people did say something. They said it loudly.
But it just didn't matter.
Some of
Yeah.
them, and it just didn't matter. I'm not sure this is going to matter, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, this is so. Yeah, I mean the LavaBit thing didn't matter because nobody spoke up, but here we are 6 years later, and reason prevails. But it took 6 years. LavaBit's not around anymore.
And several appellate courts.
Yeah, that's like
Probably a lot of very wealthy lawyers now as well.
like I'm talk about constitutional scholars. I'm a constitutional idiot, and even I can tell you that geofence warrants are patently unconstitutional. Like, let's haul up the body of Thomas Jefferson and.
No, let's argue it. Let's argue some more. Then
It's like, what did you mean when
spend
you
years
said
in
this?
court.
Probably not much left.
It's mostly bones at this point.
I like to think that the first person that's going to live 200 years has already been born.
Well, speaking of appellate courts, if this goes one way, maybe if it goes either way, you can expect so many appeals. Oh my God. What do you think? You think this is like 6 years? Is it 10?
35 years.
Okay.
That's a big estimate.
I'm going to say 12. Just what's your guess?
Yeah, I think 12's not bad. I was thinking 10.
Can't take my answer?
Well, I was 10 years, though. I'm thinking like how many presidential cycles are we going to have to go through, and 12 would be a nice...
But it's not just presidential cycles. You have to have a presidential cycle, and then a judge has to die. And it has
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
kind of,
That's what I'm thinking. It has to be at least 10 years.
Maybe more is better. But anyway, this is going to be a big deal, and it's going to drag on.
U.S. considers breaking up Google after illegal monopoly ruling, reports say. Don't worry, the Alphabet Corporation, is working on forming a tech cabal of independent but still loosely affiliated tech companies that would not collectively be considered a monopoly.
They just work together to set all the prices and what software you can have.
So they're talking about Chrome, Android, and the big one, which they don't put in the subheadline here, AdWords.
Yeah.
They're talking about taking AdWords away from Google, which of all the things they could give up, wouldn't that be the last thing that they would give up?
Well, look at it this way. If you are interested in the monetary success of AdWords, isn't all of the other things just dead weight?
No, because
Yeah, because you
they're
can use
used to
the
shape.
the search results.
That's the
and,
point
yeah.
he's making. Is, like that's the argument here, right?
Yeah.
Everything else you do is just so you can manipulate things
And
to
serve
funnel
ads.
money into the big one.
Although, if the U.S. is saying that this is the reason that we want to break up the Google monopoly, you can also search and replace that document for Apple. And for those specific things that are named in the lawsuit, Apple is a more egregious violator than Google.
I think we could probably try to take down both. Why not both?
Because then they might join forces, and no one wants that.
They're probably kind of already are, right?
Well, that was one of the big things about
Yeah.
the case, right? Because they are paying for the default search. And they're paying so much that you can't help but just be like, well, how can that be worth that
How
much
can
to
anyone
you?
can compete? Nobody can.
Google is in kind of an unfortunate position because they can't point out the hypocrisy of stuff like the because think how much hypocrisy there is from the Apple side. Apple sold ads on their platform, access to their users. No one wanted to buy it because it was the weird, funny tasting Apple swill of advertising to users. And so Apple cut off Facebook and Google, and now their product is suddenly more profitable. They went from a business unit that had like $15 million a year in revenue to like $2 billion. And we're not looking into that for antitrust reasons. They literally created their ad department as a viable competitor from Meta and Facebook by cutting off the users via privacy controls. The user doesn't actually have net more privacy.
But they're not wrong when they say that there's privacy violations going on the other end. So.
Yeah, literally everywhere.
Well, here's another good one, I would say. This is a positive thing. Unfortunately, unless TechCrunch just left it out, there's a lot of the why in here, but none of the how that I could find.
FTC finalizes rule banning fake reviews, including those made with AI.
Yeah, this was a positive story, but there was no details about enforcement.
So, like Amazon, there's not really a lot Amazon can do to enforce certain types of fake reviews. Like the people that make crappy DisplayPort cables, for example, will just have droves and droves of AI bots post reviews. And then now is it Amazon's job to sort through those reviews?
But FakeSpot does help.
It does.
So there is technology that can, and maybe there's a lot of false positives there, and we don't know how many, and we don't know how effective it is. But you're going to get, there's going to be false positives, and there's going to be false negatives, and I think it's going to be a mess.
I've got an idea for a startup company for all you venture capitalists is take all the data from leaks and data breaches and build a company that verifies the ad. It's like, oh, this is Bob's Amazon review. We know he's real because his social security number was leaked.
Ugh. They also mentioned there's some other stuff that's not AI related. There were things like you can't have relatives of like people who work at the company give reviews and that kind of stuff as well.
And the free product reviews, which
Yeah.
are rampant.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Very
have
bad.
to have actual, like someone bought it and experience with the product.
Now, Steam flags those,
Yeah,
but now I think they will have to be removed entirely. Did you get that from this article?
I wasn't sure about that.
I don't remember if I said anything about this, but this is an interesting follow-up to a story that we've been looking at for a while.
Texas sues General Motors alleging illegal selling of driver data. This is a thing that we covered in the past, but Texas has said, hey, wait a minute, you didn't make this clear to users that this was happening. We're going to sue you. But it's wild because literally every company on earth does this, so is Texas going to sue literally everybody? Or is this just some sort of feel-good thing because General Motors was doing it in a very high-profile kind of a way?
They
Well, they
mentioned
got
several
caught.
other auto companies too.
Yeah, GM got caught, and the data broker they were working with folded or said they weren't going to do this anymore or whatever. But then LexisNexis said, we're going to keep doing it. Come on over here. We'll take care of you. So, yeah, they should be punished for that. Probably won't be enough.
It's going to be a lot of fun when LexisNexis cuts off the Texas Attorney General and then they still have to function.
And we have another judge who is going to make a ruling that's going to upset a lot of very, very powerful people.
Epic judge says that he'll tear down the barriers on Google's App Store monopoly.
He was kind of metal as hell in this article.
He's not just Epic, he's also the lawyer in the Epic versus Apple case.
And they made the obvious argument that everybody makes in this day and age. It's like, what if really bad people make an app store? And he shot that right down. I have a lot of respect for this guy. I'm not going to say what they said because we're not allowed to say it because we're on a Google platform. Isn't that interesting? The lawyers can say it, but we can't. But they said, if terrible people were to make an app store, and he was like, no, we're not playing that game.
What if somebody other than Microsoft makes a spreadsheet for DOS?
Now, Google is still making some pretty insane demands here. The craziest one being, okay, you can have your own app store, but we have to review every one of your apps that goes on it. We being Google.
It's like, doesn't that still make you a monopoly? And then he pointed that out. He was like, you still have control over everything.
Let me clear that up for you. That is a very thinly veiled way of asking for 27% because remember, Apple says that they're entitled to 27% even if you sell on another platform because that's just their fee.
But, he's talking a big game. We'll see if he follows through with it. It'll be interesting.
This is the decade of disingenuous user agreements. We really should have put the thing in here about the wrongful death. That would have gone well. The Disney Plus terms. That's coming. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
And moving on to Europe, we have artificial intelligence. I didn't put this in the AI section because it's more government, but it's artificial intelligence in government, which remember when we had the burgeoning days of artificial intelligence and some people suggested this and everybody was like, are you crazy? And it's not been that long, has it?
Civil servants using AI to deal with taxpayer complaints. So if you complain about your tax bill and say, hey, seems like you're charging me, the AI is supposed to just tell you to go away.
They claim they're 30% more productive. Also, did you notice this article used PC for percentage instead of the percent sign? I noticed that. I read it and was like, 30 PC. And then I was like, percent.
Is that a Brit thing?
Yeah, maybe. I've never seen that before. It threw me off for a second when I was reading it.
But they point out that they're overwhelmed because they don't have enough staff, so they have to use AI. And then some people countered with, but wait, where are you getting the money for the AI? And they were like, we might have to let some people go. Which is circular reasoning at the best, isn't it?
It's not even that AI will deliver a more consistent customer service experience. The reality is probably going to be that AI is going to overlord somebody that is supposed to handle 10x the workload and then just make sure that the output of that person is consistent rather than actually be involved in the decision-making process. Like, I see AI ultimately taking on a QA, QC role as long as we're stuck in this LLM purgatory rather than turning it loose to be able to make decisions or really accomplish things.
Yeah, I don't think that we can count on AI to do customer service from A to Z. But there is one thing we can absolutely count on it doing, and that is to consistently erode our privacy and freedoms.
Rights group push back on UK police use of facial recognition data amid far-right riots. One thing that large language models and other kinds of AI that is built like this are really good for is taking all of that data, your location data, face data, lamppost data, and saying, hey, wait a minute, it looks like you were here. Some bad stuff also happened here. Prove that you weren't involved.
They also mentioned another brief cam. Yeah, so in Scotland, this is in Britain itself, but in Scotland, they have BriefCam, which is an Israeli company, and they track not your face. They promise they're not tracking your face.
Never.
But your clothing. So combinations of if you're wearing a hat or briefcase, purse.
And then a microphone comes on. It's like hideous.
Yeah.
It just judges your fashion.
We need a new Level 1 line of quick change t-shirts where you can grab the collar and rip it or something and it becomes a different color t-shirt.
Have you seen videos about that where it's like, how quick can you change your appearance if you're trying to get away from someone in public? That kind of stuff's really interesting.
So they admit to that. They say, we'll never use it for facial recognition. They clearly will. And I think this will just get more and more. It's terrifying. Not really anything you can do to avoid it. And there's nothing that this man can do. Actually, though, he has tweeted a cryptic tweet and said he's got a plan. No one knows exactly what it is.
Kim.com to be extradited from New Zealand to the United States, a country that he has not set foot in, apparently.
He tweeted another thing that was like New Zealand bowed to the U.S. like it's king or whatever.
So think about that statement and then read FBI ordered raid.
Yeah.
Now tell me, what is the name of New Zealand's agency with those letters?
Not that. Not the FBI.
Oh, you're saying that's the American FBI?
Yeah.
So the Kiwis just bent over and did what we said, huh?
It was a scathing tweet. It was good.
He actually live streamed, or not live streamed, but he took the surveillance footage from his house, and they were just. It was like the there wasn't a lot of like if you watch that and the who was the rapper that we talked about?
Afro Man.
Afro Man, yeah. So like if you have the police footage of the Afro Man raid, which I don't think was the FBI, it was just like the local police force. But the impunity with which they were like, oh, look, this random cashling over here, that's ours. It's like, oh, the keys to the sports car. Thank goodness. We can just take those. It was very similar. It was oddly similar. It's like, well, aren't you interested in like gathering evidence and stuff? Like, we're just going to take all the stuff that's worth money. Oh, yeah. There's also some crime here or something.
Now, it's true that I believe that Kim.com knew very well what his site was being used for.
Yes.
I mean, he didn't do the uploads. He knew what was happening. But is that an offense that should require international extradition and jail?
It's international contempt of corporation.
Yeah, that's the real power behind.
It's also, I mean, there is something to be said from, Google Drive and OneDrive and everything else. What's the difference? I mean, functionally, what's the difference?
Political power?
Mm-hmm.
And political power is pretty concentrated over in Russia. I mean, unless it's all propaganda, but I believe that he's pretty much in charge 100%. And he does not like dissenting voices, and he does not like them hiding away from his Sauron's eye.
Russia blocks Signal messaging app as authorities tighten control over information.
It's kind of another one in a long line of apps that have gone that way.
Signal does have some anti-blocking technology in it, which helps. So, that is a thing.
Well, you can take all the encryption you want. You can be as careful as you want, and it's not going to matter because even if you don't give out this information, even if you're very careful, you don't sign up for apps, you don't agree to license agreements, you don't do whatever, they're going to find out about it because the data brokers are out there. They're building the database. They're not protecting them.
2.9 billion people may have had social security numbers and other financial data compromised. What it means for you. That empire of oily rags we're always talking about that is being built by companies like Meta, but also not Meta. Companies that are in far worse of a position to secure your personal information. Yeah, it's leaked. This is the one, we covered this when the leak happened by the name of the company. I forgot the name of the company.
National Public Data.
Yeah, we covered that. It turns out everything in that is a lot of really scary stuff, including your social security number. So, no.
And it's not something that who's National Public Data? I've never heard of them. Yeah, you don't have to because they're just a data broker that scoops all this stuff up.
They aggregate a lot of commercial data, so things about like auto loans and that sort of stuff is probably also in there, I think. Credit card data, because yes, it's a little bit you show me yours and I'll show you mine kind of a thing with all of this data. But now it's such an amalgamation of crazy that it's so dangerous and so poorly secured because nothing bad ever happens. This company can just evaporate and.
Will we get any justice for this? Maybe in 10 years, and by the time that happens, they'll be gone.
No, the correct course of action would be to make your social security number no longer any kind of useful identifier on its own, which would require the government and a lot of corporations to make dramatic changes. But they're not going to do that, and that is the injustice.
But right now, we take the chance, right?
Yeah.
The corporation will not take the chance of us being who we say we're not. They won't take the risk. So then they require all of our information so that we can take the risk when they lose that information.
Yeah. This is a way of describing that is you can aggregate all of the profits and diffuse all of the risks onto other people because we have no recourse individually to do anything about it. And the government is either too incompetent or too inept they can't even change their own systems. For Social Security, we should not be using Social Security numbers at this point.
Another way of saying it could be that they're too invested because they're invested. We have public records of that. And this was a bad time. It has been fixed. But if your little icon is showing, I know it's annoying, but it's time to reboot.
Zero-click Windows TCP/IP RCE remote code injection impacts all systems with IPv6 enabled, and you need to patch now. Basically, in the IPv6 stack, there's like an integer underflow, and then you can start executing arbitrary code out of the TCP stack, which, of course, system-level privileges. It's great. It's fabulous.
Not good. And that is on by default.
I love how even with IPv6, it's just like, oh, you can just have your computer naked on the internet, and it's like, X'd out.
I'm not going to take that risk.
Yeah, no one sane should.
But you don't have to do something that dumb to get caught up, because modern devices, the store operators really need convenience, right? And we can sacrifice user safety. We've always done it. Let's just do it really, really badly.
Google sold Android phones with hidden insecure features, companies find. So this is related to being able to have the phones be in demo mode for stores, and rather than have that be a separate operating system image, it's just built into everyone's Android phone, because of course.
So at first, this guy who discovered it reached out to him and he was like, hey, this is on my phone and I don't want it on my phone and I can't get it off, and it gives root level privileges. And they're like, yeah, it's not a big deal, don't worry about it. And then he went to the media and now they're saying, oh, we're going to remove that. Don't worry.
That is now a problem because the media knows about it.
Yeah. It's amazing how many things are like that in life. It really is crazy.
Now, if this headline shocks you, you're not paying attention, because every year this happens. And there's a couple of headlines about it, but there's never any real change.
The nation's best hackers found vulnerabilities in voting machines, but there's no time to fix them because of course.
So that's DEF CON. DEF CON happens every year, right?
Yeah.
Every year at DEF CON, there is a voting machine room. They always hack them into pieces. And everybody's like, oh no. And then we use them again the next election.
And the hacks are usually insanely creative too. Like, oh, we figured out how to blink the fluorescent lights overhead on and off to change the votes on the machines. It's like, we don't even have to do anything to the machines. It's just like, you did what? What? And that works? What?
And in a lot of cases, you can make the argument, it's like, well, who's going to spend the resources to do this? But when it comes to elections, there is no limit to what people will do to cheat.
Look at how much money they spend getting morons elected.
This one's crazy. This is Killdozer.
Now, there's no direct correlation here that we can prove. But even if there's not, this actually happened to me. They don't need the technology to do it. They're already doing it. This just makes it really convenient.
Woman's insurance canceled after drone flies over her home. So this is a lady that's she's been doing a DIY renovation, and she apparently has a real big yard. So she made a pile of renovation debris in her yard, because, her private yard, and her insurance company flew over and said, oh, this looks like your house is derelict and there's a lot of dangers in your yard. We're going to cancel your insurance.
I don't even think it's about the house being derelict. It's just like, what if a young child from the neighborhood stumbles into that and gets tetanus?
It probably wasn't even that long either. Like I can't imagine her DIY thing probably lasted more than a couple
No.
months.
She said it was a
3 years.
massive project, and it took a really long time.
That.
But
still, her yard.
Even if it was cordoned off, like if she had caution tape, you're not going to be able to see that from one of these
Yeah. Now the insurance company claims. So she claims she saw the drone and sort of put two and two together. Insurance company says, "Oh no, we don't do that. We got that information from other means." And they will hire people to come and take pictures of your property. So it was probably the drone, right?
Yeah. Well, they were like, "Yeah, a third party might have done it." It's like, well, you still hired the third party,
and you took action.
Yeah.
And also, she points out that she didn't get a letter or anything. I got a letter from my insurance company that was like, hey, you need to put on your porch, it needs railings. And she said she didn't even get anything. It was just like, you're done.
Yeah, she didn't get any kind of chance. She said she'd had that policy for years.
when Local 2 reached out, the insurance company said, oh, this was a terrible mistake. Please come back. Please don't do that. And she submitted paperwork to Local 2, I guess, that was, here's where I kept asking them for explanations or copies of the pictures or like why they did this. And they ignored her.
Here's where the AI kept replying to me and saying the same thing over and over.
This is a German article. Was there an English translation of this one?
Well, Google will translate it for
Yeah.
you.
I think this is also, I saw this somehow connected to DEF CON news. But
Well, it's ransomware, right? We've heard about ransomware killing people and destroying businesses, this might be the first bovine casualties based on ransomware.
So
Go ahead and read that.
cybercriminals.
Expressen, Landwirt und hacken Melkroboter?
It's funny that
that's the cow milker.
cow milking machine is just milk robot.
That's a lot of words in German are like that. They're very literal people, which I like.
So the cow milking machines were ransomwared, and a farmer has been struggling with that because he still needs to use the cow milking machines to milk the cows. One of the cow milking machines was not properly monitoring the cow that it was milking, which happened to be pregnant, and it murdered the cow.
It didn't murder the cow. I thought that was going to be the story. I thought it was going to be like a gruesome, like over milking, and they found like a desiccated cow or something. But no, this cow had the calf had died in utero.
Oh.
And normally the cow milking machine would be like, oh, these vitals are off the charts. I'm not milking this cow. Or it would start getting milk and it'd be like, something's wrong with this milk. But since all that was shut down, they just put the cow back and it died.
Yeah. They couldn't save the cow. They tried. The cyber criminals have murdered a cow. Well, I mean, they've been targeting hospitals too. I mean, all bets are off with cyber criminals, and it really is. The other bad thing about healthcare is that a lot of the smaller providers and smaller doctors' offices literally do not understand the requirements. A lot of states now have laws about things like. Be right back. You just hit pause.
I mean, we could just wrap it up.
Yeah, we'll just wrap it up.
It's the last story.
That was it.
We'll just call that an end.
Watch out for the milking robot, and may you have a good Tuesday.